my beautiful friend. I am so happy to be here and excited to talk to you today about this topic. It's been on my heart for a very long time, and I felt like the time is now to share, right? And what I'm talking about today is the story of Esther, and more particularly, like the revelations I've gotten from that book in the Bible about femininity. And what I want to say is that Esther was a force to be reckoned with. Like, many of us know that she was very instrumental in saving her people and, saving her people from the threat of literally annihilation. Is that how you say the word? Her story from the beginning was more than a glorified beauty pageant. Like, this woman showed so many characteristics that, if you look deeply, actually prepared her to be positioned into the place where she was at, where she could be instrumental in saving her people. And there are many different sides to it that I want to share with you today. Today we're talking about femininity and the lessons that you can gain from Esther about femininity. And today I have 5 points that I want to share with you. So I just want to go and dive right in. And just so you know, I will be sharing Bible verses. So if you have your Bible anywhere, get it. You can download the Bible app if you need. And I don't know, like, I'm actually not sure if I'll be editing this video a lot, but I'm going to try to find a way where you can actually see especially the Bible verses that I'm sharing with you. Okay? So the first thing I want to share is that Esther, like, a key quality of femininity is being receptive. And Esther was just that. But there is a way of being receptive that positions you as a woman to be more successful in this quality. So it's not just about receiving everything, but being very particular in what you receive, which Esther did. So in verse 9, in Esther 2 verse 9, it says that Haggai, I hope I'm saying the name properly, this was a eunuch, like one of the palace servants, who was over all the women who were then to be presented to the king. So he saw Esther, right? And it says that he was very impressed with Esther and treated her kindly. And he quickly ordered a special menu for her and provided her with beauty treatments. And it even goes on to say so much more. Now, when you read this particular verse, it's like, wow, Esther, like, I think the very common or natural thought, like the first thought you may have is that, oh, wow, Esther was so lucky. She was so favored. But it says in this particular verse that he was impressed. Right? I'm reading from the New Living Translation, right? That one. And I wonder, why was he impressed with Esther? Now, I do believe that divine favor had a lot to do with it. I do believe. But there was something about Esther where she also, I believe, portrayed a characteristic that would help with this divine favor. Because the truth is that you can have divine favor, but if you don't have the characteristics to carry it along, it can carry you so further and no more. So much further and no more, So I believe that from the get-go, Esther had characteristics and qualities that helped her to really be an impression, like leave an impression on the people that saw her. And I do believe, like, from her history, which we'll get into more details, like, I believe she was taught so much from Mordecai, who was her uncle and adoptive father, because her parents had passed away, right? Her people at the time, the Israelites, were taken captive, and then they were taken to another country, another region, right? And no, there isn't anything explicit to explain what happened to her parents, but due to the history at the time, I think it's okay to assume that something was traumatic, right? And Mordecai now stepped into the place of being the person who guided her, and you can see him also like being so key and strategic in her life for the whole book. And I just feel like there are different dynamics here where she learned from him, and she also had the characteristics and divine favor. Okay, so one of my flatmates just came back, which is pretty, it's okay because I'm in the living room right now, but I really wanted to film this video right here and right now, so I'm just going for it, right? But let's continue. Now I want you to think about yourself, right? In each of the points that I share, I want to tie it back to you and how you can grow from this characteristic or revelation that I share, right? So with Esther being receptive, right, to even the favor that she received. Oh, that's another point. So every time she received favor, Esther would actually take it in and not dismiss it or, block it or, just she would receive, right? Which is the point here, that she was very receptive in everything. Well, actually, the good things, the key things that she received from key people in her life, right? So from Mordecai, from the eunuch, in this part of the verse, she would receive the favor that she got. And I want you to think about yourself right now. In your life, when you receive any amount of favor, or when you are presented with any amount of favor, do you receive? Do you in some way display self-sabotage because you think that you are unworthy? Or do you dismiss because you think that it may be too small, or for whatever reason, right? Because the reason I want to talk about this is I feel as if people, especially women, may read the story of Esther and still feel helpless because it's like there is a mindset that, oh, this was divine and only so. Now the divine part, like God showing her the favor and allowing other people to display it to her, of course, that's important. That's so key. That's like overarching. But also there are things that you can do, right, with anything that you receive, and also, being wise in what it is and who you receive it from. So think about yourself, because I believe you can grow in favor. I believe that when you receive favor, it grows because there's just something natural and supernatural about, you showing that you're able to receive and grow in and carry what you're given, Right. And also, like, it's really important to be humble to receive what others are given, like even if it's advice. And that brings me into like another key point, and I really want you to listen to this one because I know it's a word that can be a very big trigger word. But listen to the full aspect of it so you can know why it's like a very key point in Esther's life and why it helped her a lot and why it can help you. So Esther was submissive. She recognized authority and she submitted to it, and submission is not a bad word. I know it has been used a lot throughout history to push people down, especially women. So I understand the aspect of it being a trigger word because it hasn't been used in a way that's very loving. But if we can see the value in it, it can also be embraced for the good that it is. So in Esther 2 verse 10, it says that Esther had not told anyone of her nationality and family background because Mordecai had directed her not to do so. Mordecai being her uncle and adoptive father. Now, this was advice that Mordecai gave Esther, and she listened to it. She was in a different culture, and she was not only in the culture, now she was in the royal part, the governmental part of this culture, you know. And Mordecai gave her this advice, and she listened to it. And it doesn't say so explicitly in the verse, but I believe it helped her a lot to be protected, because I don't know, like, if there was just, even from the get-go, something against her people, and culture, but we know that her culture was very different, starkly different from the culture she was now living in the Persian culture. And Mordecai found it wise to give her this advice, and she listened to it, and I believe it made her successful in being in the position that she was placed, that helped her to do so much more for her people, right? And she not only submitted to Mordecai and, his authority over her being a father, she also submitted to the authorities of the castle, of the royalty overall. Like when the eunuch saw her and was impressed and gave different things to her, like with favor, she received. And later on, we'll read that she also received key advice from him that would help her to be successful. And I believe submission is not only, like, how do I put this? Submission is important because it helps you to receive the good that others want to give you. It is unfortunate when there's like an authority that isn't really giving good towards their people, or towards the ones that are like submitted to them. But when it is good, people who submit to that authority grow so much. It's amazing. And in any dynamic, any relationship, like with a wife and her husband, with people that are submitting to government, like parents and their children, they can thrive when they're submitting to something good. Now, if it's like not good, there's still wisdom as to what to do, but it doesn't throw submission out, and there's just something that just still works. I don't know what it is, but I believe it's a principle of life. But there is wisdom, and there's a point that I want to get back to with submitting. Oh yeah, okay. So many times when we hear about submission, we hear about like husband and wives, children and parents, but submission is also like everyone to the other person in different ways. Like husbands do submit to their wives, like husbands also submit to other authorities that are over them, that can teach them how to be good husbands and providers for their families. So submission as a human being is important, it's natural, and it's key to actually be successful, and I know it's hard in our individualistic society, and even me, like sometimes I struggle with this, like submitting and relaxing and taking the advice from people, especially from people over me, especially when I don't agree. I struggle with it, I do. But I found from stories in the Bible like this, and even different examples in my own life, that when like I'm in a place of receiving from those who are mentoring me and really care for my best, it's a good place, Yeah. So with you, do you have anyone in your life right now that in any way is an authority over you, like a pastor or your husband, or just anyone who is in a key position of leading you? And are you submitting to them well? Esther did it, and she ended up being the queen of this empire, right? Because of the different strategic like people who gave her advice and stuff. Like even the eunuch gave her advice as to what to do or what to bring when she was going to the king. And it was wise to listen to him because he had been in the palace for a really long time. And it's really natural to think that he knew what the king would like, you know? So it's things like that, like submitting. Esther was resourceful. Now, Esther was an orphan. She was in a different culture. Things were not perfect or amazing. In fact, even her being in the castle, in the palace, wasn't necessarily in the best of circumstances, because if you think about it, like, she is in competition literally with other women to please the king. And he was also like sleeping with all these women, like, you know. But that was the time and the culture that she was placed in. And did she resist? No. She made the most of what she was given and where she was at. Now, the thing is that the story of Esther isn't one that is romantic. Like, let's not even like you know, not see the reality. It wasn't romantic, although sometimes it can be, it can be told in such a way like, oh, the king chose Esther. And I mean, he did, but it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't a love story. It was one of just being in the right place at the right time. And basically, like, Esther made the most of it. So where you are at right now in your life, even when things aren't perfect or going well, are you in the mindset that you're going to make the most of your situation, right? Instead of like resisting and saying and complaining like, oh, it shouldn't be like this, it should be like that and that. Are you taking the good and trying to multiply it and use it to bless you and others? Yeah, so with the resourcefulness in Esther 2 verse 15, it talks about the verse I was saying where Esther took the advice of the eunuch, because he, when it was her turn to go to see the king, he had suggested some things that she would take with her, because with the cycle of the women and when they would see the king, it's really weird for me to even to think about this. When they would see the king for that night and that day, they would then become a concubine and then go to another place of the palace, and they would only see the king again if he requested them. So she would be moved to another place. First you had the virgins and then you had the concubines. So she, when she was being moved to another place of the palace, she brought the things that the eunuch had suggested that she would. So with everything that she had been given, she would receive the good that was placed before her. And resourcefulness means that you are making the most of whatever situation you're in, you know? And I think that is a key aspect of femininity, because femininity is so powerful. It's not just about being passive. It's about taking what you've been given and multiplying it and giving it back. Like someone like gives you, or you're living in a house, you use it and you create it into a beautiful home that people can come and rest in, you know. So Esther was resourceful, and that was a key characteristic of femininity that I saw in her life. Another thing is that Esther was so brave, so very brave. In Esther 4 verse 16, it says, "Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, day or night. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I must die. Now, the context of this, if you're not familiar with the story, is that Esther just found out about the edict that the Jews, her people, would be attacked. They would be attacked to be wiped out. And Mordecai, her uncle, told her to go to the king to beg for this to be reversed. The only thing is that there was this law that you couldn't just go to see the king, which is really interesting because Esther was a queen, but still, she couldn't just go to see the king. So she knew about the law, and she was, saying that she can't do that. It would be, she was basically like saying why it would be impossible for her to do this. And then Mordecai spoke into her life and told her to raise up and do something, even at the risk of losing her life. And she did it. She risked her life to save her people. And this is mind-blowing and is a key aspect of femininity that I don't know if many people see, where a strength in femininity is being brave and being bold with wisdom, right? Because in this verse, she said that she would fast and pray, and she fasted and prayed and she was successful. And I believe she fasted and prayed for wisdom and for protection. She didn't just go ahead and go for it and to talk to the king, but she was wise with it. And I think these are 2 points that I want to speak about, where she was brave and wise. For me, this is just fascinating because for us, for women, I think there's a place we have in life that we can be so influential, even if there's a risk to it, but it will impact so many people, or even just one, in a powerful way, because you carry that. You carry the wisdom, the bravery to be bold, to protect, to save, to take care of others in your life. And Esther displayed this in her situation and in her time. And I believe that her bravery was a characteristic she had long before. It wasn't just at this time. It was something that she cultivated. Even being one of the virgins taken from home and going to that castle, to that palace. I keep on using the same words interchangeably, like palace and castle, because that's what's in my mind. She made the most of it, and she submitted, and she was just doing her best with what was given. And I think that grew in her a bravery, and it was a characteristic where she was the best person to be placed in that position at that time to save her people, to be key in saving her people. And now, with the point of wisdom, there was something she did which is fascinating to me. After fasting and prayer, she invited the king to a banquet to eat and to drink and to relax before making her request. And he knew that she had a request, because he knew the law, and he knew that to come to see him, it was at a risk of her life. So there must have been a reason why she came to see him. But instead of blurting it out in that instant, she did something else that would make him be in a position where he could receive from her a request that was necessary. And even I don't know, with the dynamics of the law, an edict, a law had been given for her people to be annihilated, and it was just something that the king would have to think about strategically. Maybe he was even like he was fed lies about the Jews already. So it wasn't just about, oh, just like, it what she did basically. What I'm getting at, it was very strategic. And not only that, she invited the enemy of her people to that banquet as well. Like, I don't understand, like, I can't imagine the guts to do that. But she did it for a reason and a purpose, because the enemy of her people, the one who had orchestrated all of this for her people to be wiped out, he was also in the palace, and she invited the king and this man to this banquet. And it all came down to her saying that this man, she said to the king when they were having the banquet, that this man has been against her and her people all along and doing things to, yeah, to wipe them out, right? There was something that she did where she relied on wisdom in order that her bravery that was shown would be the most successful. And things like these really fascinates me about the story of Esther. And for you, my question is, the different characteristics that I just shared, do you think that you can emulate these in your life? Do you think that you can emulate the wisdom, the bravery, the resourcefulness, the submission and being receptive in order for what you are called to, what your purpose is, it can be the most for your life? You're not trying to be like men, you're not trying to be like anyone else but yourself, but also displaying the characteristics that can help you in the best way possible. This story for me is like really fascinating, and I want to go into it some more. So let me know what you think, or any of these points. If any of these points stood out to you a lot, let me know in the comments below, and share this with someone you think could be impacted as well. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.